Hello and welcome to another fantastic episode of the Fantastic Mr. Podcast. In this episode, we go back to 1994 to the Quick Stop Grocery. Open the shutters, but we can't because someone's jammed gum in the locks again to revisit one of my favorite movies, Clerks. So let's get started on this. This is an episode that I've been wanting to do for a long time. Is talk about Clerks. So we'll start with. By the way, my buddy Zach is here.
Yo, what's up?
Joining me.
It's a two-man crew tonight.
Yeah, two-man crew. We don't know what happened to Jake, so we just decided to go ahead and do this without him. He'll understand.
Yeah, it's been a few weeks.
Yeah,
we've been trying
since we've
to
recorded. Yeah,
schedule this particular episode, and it's still kind of fresh in my mind. So I think it's best to do it.
So let's go ahead and I'm just going to give kind of a brief synopsis of the movie real quick. So Clerks was a 1994 movie, rated R. It was a day in the lives of two convenience clerks named Dante and Randall as they annoy customers, discuss movies, and play hockey on the store roof. Written and directed by Kevin Smith. This was actually his first movie that kind of launched him into the industry. Got super lucky. It's like you make an indie flick that's black and white that has like hardly any action in it. Somehow you still get distribution rights and stuff. So
he got lucky maybe.
Yeah. Well, what he did was he made the movie himself, rented the equipment himself. He even sold his comic book collection to make this movie. And I've even read that he was originally going to cast himself as Randall, but instead he cast Jeff Anderson as Randall and cast himself because he figured if it tanks, at least he'll be in the movie or something like that. Something kind of silly, like his face will be in it if it doesn't do well. And so, but he took it to Sundance, and Miramax bought it and distributed it, and then he continued to make movies. So, what did you think of the movie?
Well, first, I just want to say Kevin Smith. I think a lot of people, they've heard the name before, but they might have seen him, known for his commentary on comic book films. I think that's maybe for me, that's where I know him most from, is just talking about his love for everything to do with comic books.
Yeah, totally. I've watched a few things. So he has a show, used to be on FX, I think, called Comic Book Men. And
yes.
It's basically Pawn Stars, but in a comic book store. His comic book store, which is the Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash in New Jersey, ran by his buddy Walt and Mike Zapsik and Ming Chen. It's a really good show if you've never seen it. It's just Pawn Stars with comics and toys mostly. I've seen a couple video games come in and they've turned them away. I've even seen a couple Barbies come in and they turned them away. Just depends. And so it's a cool show. Of course, they try to interject some story in there because can't just do a regular Pawn Stars type show without adding some sort of storyline.
Some drama.
Yeah. And of course, he's known for his characters, Jay and Silent Bob, who are first introduced in this movie as like the two that stand in front of the store selling drugs to people. Like that's all they do. And of course, their character arc grows over the years. If you've seen like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, and Clerks 2 and Clerks 3.
I wonder if that was always Kevin Smith's intention to do spin-off movies of sorts for
sure
Silent Bob, or maybe he wasn't. It was just going to depend on the success of the Clerks movie, the first one.
I think when people do stuff like that, like he's got his own universe. It's called the View Askew universe. View Askew, I think, is his production company name or whatever. And so he's created movies. It's kind of like MCU where you see mostly Jay and Silent Bob. Sometimes you'll see like other randos in there. Like Ben Affleck will be in there. Ben Affleck and Matt Damon will be in there sometimes. Joey Lauren Adams, who is in Chasing Amy, who by the way is from Arkansas. If you didn't know that. And she appears in Chasing Amy. She's in the Jay and Silent Bob reboot. And so like his stuff like intermingles with each other, kind of like a shared universe. Jay and Silent Bob mostly going through all those things. So like I think I think they were in Mallrats, if I'm not mistaken. They were in Dogma, which if you haven't seen Dogma, that's also a great movie. Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, Jay and Silent Bob reboot, and then Clerks 2 and 3. So like they're all over the place.
But it all started with Clerks.
Yeah, it all started with Clerks. So I'm interested to see what you thought of the movie.
So see the trailer when you told me to check it out.
When I made you watch
it. Was our homework. I looked at the trailer, just the thumbnail. I was like, what? A modern looking movie with black and white. You don't see too many of those. But when I started actually watching the trailer and actually watching the movie, I was kind of intrigued. It was just about a mundane life. Two guys happen to be good friends and kind of just going about the motions.
A day in the life.
Yeah, that's what it is basically. And I think what stuck out to me was the dialogue.
Yeah,
the kind of intelligent dialogue that Kevin Smith wrote for these characters, and there's lots of themes and messages throughout.
Yeah, I do enjoy the
relationship woes. Like this guy's just like kind of content with life, but he has these maybe aspirations to do more. But I think Randall's kind of the most intelligent character and the funniest. He's like kind of the Obi-Wan of sorts, but on a more goofier level.
Yeah, as to say, a little more comedic than Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Dante is the one that has like the most struggle in the movie, whereas Randall doesn't. Like he's literally like he just goes to work, goes home, goes to work,
goes with the flow.
Yeah, he doesn't care, and he doesn't even hardly stay at his job because he works in the video store next door, and he's always over at the convenience store hanging out with Dante, and then if he's not, he's watching movies, and I don't know, like it's funny whenever I worked at Game Exchange, like people would always be like, oh man, you must love this job, you get to play video games all day, and I'm like, I don't get to play video games all day, like I maybe get to play video games 15 minutes out of my 4 to 6 hour shift, but then you see Randall and he's like sitting on the counter watching movies and someone comes in and she's like, which one should I rent? And he's like, I don't know. I don't care.
Who cares?
She's like, should it be this one? And then she like, it's funny because she like turns in a circle and goes, and then tries it again. And he's like, I don't care. And she's like, you're not even paying attention. It's funny.
He doesn't give a crap about anything.
No, not even. So, I was, I've seen this movie, I think 4 or 5 times. And like I think the first time I saw any Kevin Smith movie was Dogma, which is about 2 renegade angels who had been cast to Earth, who find a loophole to get back into heaven, and so they are trying to exploit it. And so that's pretty much it. You meet a bunch of angels and demons, and Jason Lee's in it. He plays a demon, and Jay and Silent Bob are in it, and they meet. Oh, what's her name in the movie? Anyway, the main character, I forget her name in the movie, but she's like a long line of descendants of Jesus Christ, and so she's like the only one that can stop them because of it.
Is her name Bethany?
Yes, it is Bethany. Thank you.
I just looked it up. Yep.
Yeah, her name is Bethany, and then you have Loki and Bartleby. Who Loki's played by Matt Damon and Bartleby is played by Ben Affleck, and so that movie's super funny. And there's a really funny part where I think Kevin Smith's Silent Bob throws Bartleby, I think, out of a train, and then he looks at one of the guests on the train. He's like, "No ticket," which is from Indiana Jones. I think it's I don't know which one, but he does the same exact thing where he throws somebody off the train. He's like, "No ticket," and so
it shows Kevin Smith's like just love for certain movies.
Yeah. Well, he's a super nerd,
Yeah. Didn't he? I swear there was the whole Death Star reference in one of the scenes in Clerks. It was
So
used.
I was
What was?
actually, yeah, I was actually listening to this scene because I remember him talking about. I've heard him talk about it a few times, but I was like, let me refresh my memory. So basically, he brings up the fact that there were two Death Stars made. Right, you had the one that was completed in Empire. Yeah, yeah, Empire, and then you have the one that wasn't that was being built in Jedi. Well, the one that was completed was full of stormtroopers and Imperial officers and Darth Vader and all this stuff. Of course, Darth Vader wasn't in it when it blew up, right? So
Yeah.
then the second one was still being built. So Randall came to the conclusion that the second one couldn't have had like Imperial stormtroopers and all this and Darth Vader in it. It must have just been full with independent contractors, and they go into like um, how they knew the risks going into it. I mean, it's the freaking Death Star. It's Darth Vader. They knew the risk going into it. So when it got blown up, they can't really do anything about it and stuff like that. I was like, when I heard that for the first time, I was like, that's an interesting point. Like, there's only like people constructing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There probably is like people building it and contractors, plumbers. He brings up plumbers and electricians and stuff. And I thought that was a very interesting point that Kevin Smith clearly thought of, way
What was
before the
what was the
movie.
point? What was the point of bringing that up? I forgot.
There was
Was it like comparison to some real life situation or?
no, it was just a conversation because like a lot of the conversations, I mean, well, the whole time he's talking about it, Dante's like, I can't believe she's getting married. She's getting married. What's her name? Katie? No, not Katie. It's Caitlin. Caitlin's getting married, and like the whole time he's like, "Did you not hear me? Caitlin's getting married," and he's like still talking about the Death Star thing, and he's finally like, which one is your favorite? And he's like, Empire. And then Randall's like, blasphemy. And if you've ever seen Clerks 2, he
I
goes into
gotta.
Star Wars versus Lord of the Rings
Ooh.
in that movie. It's so freaking funny. He's like, and there's only one, what did he say? Only one return, and it's not Return of the King, it's Return of the Jedi. It's so funny. And he makes fun of like the Lord of the Rings movies. And so Clerks 2 is kind of like the, I don't know, redheaded stepchild of the trilogy, but it's kind of like Age of Ultron, where like it's the one that nobody really cared about, but it was kind of needed to move forward with the Avengers and all this stuff. And it's kind of the same concept where like it was funny, but you didn't really need it, but you kind of did need it. You know what I mean?
Why do they go color in the second one, you think?
Well, I think he did black and white this time. One, because they shot at night mostly. Well, not mostly. They only shot at night, and then so when you shoot in black and white, especially all black and white, it's easier to make something look like day. Um,
So it's like you don't have to do with lighting.
yeah. Well, he probably did have to deal with lighting, but he
So,
probably lit it to where it
okay.
looked like daytime.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he had to shoot overnight because he worked and plus black and white film was probably cheaper. Um,
Even back then.
yeah,
Well,
and
I guess
so
film was still the norm.
yeah, it was normal, but it was
94.
still cheaper because you had to think about how much film you needed, and then if you used it all before you're done, you had to go buy more film. So I guess black and white was probably cheaper, at least compared to now. Like if you try to find, like I bought a camera that uses film, and I bought black and white film because it was just cheaper. I haven't developed those pictures yet. I probably should, but um, yeah, it's just cheaper that way. So um, I would think that's probably the reason why. And what was I saying before that? I said something about you asked me why do you think? Oh yeah, so like during the production of it, I think he shot for 21 days, which is 3 weeks, and he had to shoot at night because he worked at the convenience store in which the movie was shot. Right, so the everything you see is like where he worked.
Wow.
Kevin Smith and Brian, what's his name? Brian.
O'Halloran.
No, Brian
O'Halloran.
O'Halloran. Brian O'Halloran's the actor. I'm thinking of his friend Brian, who's also in Comic Book Men, and that's who Randall and Dante are based off of. So Randall's based off Kevin Smith. Dante's based off Brian, his friend Brian. And so everything you see, like that's where he worked. So he would go in from 6 a.m. to 11, shoot till 4, and then get like an hour and a half of sleep or whatever, and go back to work and do it again and again until the movie was done.
It's wild.
Yeah, it is crazy. And then think about it like this also, because like he had to rent all that stuff himself. He sold off his comic book collection to do it, and then on top of that, he had to edit it himself. So I'm sure he had to edit some kind of editing machine because either that or it was the 90s. I bet there was some sort of nonlinear editing program on computers, like on some sort of software that he could have used.
Yeah.
Actually, I wonder if he did use software, if he used like an editor, like a manual editor. I need to ask him when I meet him next time. When I meet him for the first time ever. Um, but anyway, so that's the story of Kevin Smith and the production of Clerks.
I can't remember if there was any music. I don't remember any music.
Yeah, it was all like generic, probably stuff, royalty free stuff. Nothing. Well, that's probably not 100% true, but maybe it was either royalty free or it was very, very cheap. Or maybe he knew friends who were in bands. I remember when I went to Euler, we had this music supervisor who was he's like a guy who like does like purchases licenses for music and stuff on movies. And so he was telling us that he did a movie called Chairman of the Board with a Carrot Top. And he was like, it was really fun because I had a bunch of friends who were in bands. And so I could just pay them to, have their music in the movie. And I was like, that's probably I would think he either did that or found something royalty free or something super cheap. And sometimes you can get people to do it for like, you can be like, hey man, can I use your song in my movie? Kind of thing. But
Yeah.
so yeah.
How about the scenes that were shot on top of the convenience store? I wonder, those look like they were shot during the day. I guess it wasn't.
Mm-mm.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, he must have some strong lights because they sure did look like they were shot during the day, huh?
Yeah. And the funeral outside the funeral home.
Yeah, if you notice, we never go inside that funeral home, do we?
Nope.
He goes in and then you hear the coffin fall on the ground and then they run out. So
do you think this movie appealed to like general audiences at the time? What was the reception? Do we know? I haven't really looked into it. But.
Honestly, I don't know. I could look it up because I don't know. For some reason, I don't think to look up the reception of
this movie. How was it promoted? Like, is it comedy or some?
I think so.
Indie.
Yeah. Well, you could tell it was an indie movie.
Indie drama.
No, I think it was. I mean, from the trailer, it seemed like it was promoted as a comedy. That it was just kind of like a slice of life comedy type thing. And let's see, Clerks was well received by critics and developed a cult following. On Rotten Tomato, it currently has an approval rating of 90%. Let's see if that's true. Rotten Tomatoes. I had to teach my students what Rotten Tomatoes was.
What?
Yeah, they didn't know. Clerks. Let's say Clerks has a 90%. A 90% tomato meter and an 89% audience score. So it's pretty well liked audiences, and you don't ever see that. Like, it's either one or the other. It's always like either it's the critics liked it because it was an indie flick that had little to no plot or external conflict, or it was an popcorn flick that has tons of external conflict and nothing of substance.
Yeah, sometimes it's just completely opposite between the audience score and the.
So why do you think that is? Why do you think that Clerks is so like, I don't know, in line? Like it's a 90% tomato and a 89% audience score.
I'd guess that a lot of people could relate to the characters.
I would agree. Like, and not only that, but the conversation was very like, I don't want to say relatable again, but it was kind of relatable. Like it's just everyday conversation that you have with your friends.
Yeah. But it's like an extended edition of conversations, and they're like more articulate when they talk, like getting their thoughts out versus.
Yeah, that's the only thing about it. Like
that's the Kevin Smith style, I guess.
Right. Yeah. The only thing I don't care for is like, it's kind of like Gilmore Girls, which I've never seen Gilmore Girls, but just from like watching people make fun of Gilmore Girls. It's like they have something to say instantly, that contributes to the conversation. Whereas, like it seems like right now I'm saying, and
Yeah.
whereas they don't do that. They just like respond immediately.
Yeah.
Which in some cases I can see that happening, but sometimes I'm like, dude, there's no way. Like I would have had to think about that, but they must be just that much smarter than me or something,
Yeah. I don't think they're trying to come across as realistic in
At
that
least in,
regard.
in that conversation regard, which
Yeah.
is great. Like I said, I love the conversations, but sometimes I think it's not really something I don't like. It's just I think about
Yeah.
it. I'm like,
Yeah.
man, there's no way
It
I'd be able to
stands
like
out.
have that conversation like that. Like I'd be like, well, I don't know, man. Let me think about it. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be like, well, blah 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 blah, and just instantly have this, stimulating conversation.
Yeah. And they have lots of stimulating
They
conversations.
sure do. I'm
I
trying to
read the
see.
movie was going to be NC-17 initially because of the language, like a lot of sexual
Hmm.
references and like
That's hilarious.
hardcore descriptions of sex acts and such. Especially the scene with Randall and the customer at the video store,
Hang on.
and there was that kid with her.
That's what did he do?
It was just going into depth about
Oh, with the porn.
yeah
Oh, that was funny.
the types of porn.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, no, I remember now. It was like, yeah, he needed all this porn, and then he added the kids movie at the end.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny. Yeah. Um, dang, I got. Oh, so what other were there any other scenes that stuck out to you? I'm trying to think of some that.
I feel like there was some emotional scenes between one of the like female acquaintances of Dante's. I feel like there was some good. I forgot, it was like toward the end. Like there's like some good yelling going on. I don't know.
Oh
It
yeah,
was
because
got me
she
sucked in.
she found out that he was talking to his ex girlfriend,
Yes.
talking about what's her face. God, why can't I remember names anymore? Veronica, the girlfriend that was like good to him, and then he wanted to be with the girlfriend that wasn't good to him.
Yeah.
It seemed like Caitlin, the girl who his ex girlfriend. It seemed like she even says like I want to give him an honest try, but I'd be like, if it were me, be like, no, you had your chance. Of course, they dated in high school, so
What was the one that Kevin Smith was making that comment about? Silent Bob was making the comment that the spaghetti and all that
I mean the lasagna.
lasagna. Yeah.
Yeah, that was. He said something like, there's a million fine looking women in the world, dude, but they don't all bring you lasagna at work. Most of them just cheat on you. I should make
Yeah.
that to a
That,
poster.
that was an awesome quote.
Yeah, it was a great quote. Like the one thing that Silent Bob says, it's always like something like meaningful, except for in Dogma. Well, in Dogma, he like yells at Jay for something, and it's really funny. Of
Yeah.
course, this one it's like the one thing he says.
What was the point of Silent Bob's character? I mean,
Nothing. I mean,
just
he's just
nothing, and he has
he's
zero
Jay's
emotion.
he's Jay's heterosexual life partner. Plus, he didn't have to write lines for him except for one. So,
And he
I mean,
got to dance to at the
he's
end.
probably said like 100 words in the entirety of View Askew universe.
I thought he was supposed to be some Russian guy or something.
He was supposed to be with.
Be a Russian guy.
Oh no,
I guess
yeah,
maybe
nothing.
I
I don't know.
misinterpreted that.
Yeah, maybe you're high that day.
Maybe I was, but I like the scene where he finally talks. He finally
Yeah.
dances, and
Oh
he
yeah.
was he was like gave the best line of dialogue that has so much meaning.
Yeah, no, it's like this line of dialogue that's super powerful. Like
At least
except
it's thought provoking for
yeah,
Dante.
for sure. And Dante's whole thing was I'm not even supposed to be here today. Which by the way,
What happened? His boss told him he had to work here.
well,
Or
no,
to
he
work here to
just
fill in or something.
yeah, he just asked him if he could. He called him and asked him if he could work, and he's like, "No, I'm off today. I'm playing hockey." And he's like, "All right, well, what time will you be in?" He's like, "You'll be in at noon." He's like, and then you hear him like, "You'll be in at noon." He's like, "Yeah," and then so he's like, "All right." So he does it with the assumption that his boss is going to be there at noon.
Yeah.
But then his boss doesn't show up. He like goes to I don't remember. He goes somewhere. He goes to like another state and leaves Randall or Dante there. Oh, there's
Yeah.
Jake.
And he never realizes that he's missing, right? Or like
Who?
the boss never figures out what's going on, or no?
Oh yeah, like it doesn't seem like he doesn't even talk to the boss. I don't think through the whole movie, if I'm not mistaken, because he's not even supposed to be there today. And then that sign that he puts out in the front, it says, "I sure you were open."
Yeah.
That's on the front of the Jane Silent Bob secret stash in the
I need
comic
to
book
watch.
store.
I need to watch those other movies. Get a better appreciation for the universe.
I think the only Kevin Smith movies I've seen Clerks 1, 2, and 3. I've seen Dogma. I've seen Mallrats, Jane Silent Bob Strike Back, Jane Silent Bob Reboot, and Tusk. He did a He-Man and the Masters of the Universe reboot show, an animated show. He's directed a couple episodes of The Flash.
Hmm.
I don't know if you knew that. So let's see. I've seen Clerk. I've seen Mallrats. I've seen Dogma. Clerks 2, Clerks 3, Jane Silent Bob Strike Back. Let's see. Jersey Girl. I forgot about Jersey Girl. That was a good movie.
What's that? With Ben Affleck?
Yeah, it's got Ben Affleck and Chris Carlin. George Carlin, sorry. Chris Carlin's the guy I went to high school with. George Carlin, who's a comedian. And then I have not seen Zach and Mary Make a Porno or Red State. There's a porn parody of Clerks called Clerks
Oh.
Triple X, a porn parody. There is a Clerks TV show that I really want to watch. It's only 6 episodes long.
Is it animated?
Yeah, it's animated. That I want to watch. It looks cool. Like I like the animation in it. It's like I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of like reminds me of kind of like I don't know if you ever watched Clone High. That's the anime it looked like, or animation it's kind of got.
Hmm.
Okay, I've seen Tusk, and Jay and Silent Bob reboot, and Clerks 3. So yeah, I've seen a few. I haven't seen them all, but I've seen a lot of them. I have Dogma on DVD and on VHS. I don't know why that was so
How's
funny.
it going, guys?
Hey, we're in the middle
Jake?
of talking, so Jake's here, so he's going to be showing up in the middle of the episode, which is okay.
How's it going, guys?
We
these day changes.
Yeah, it's my fault. I've had to move to Mondays, recording on Mondays because I took over as a faculty advisor for a student organization. So I just have to be there. Like I don't actually have to do anything unless they ask me to do something. But I have to just be there on Tuesdays when we were originally.
I mean, that's good. That's responsible. It's for the children.
Yeah, I technically have to. Well, I have to be in 2 committees, or at least 2 committees, and then they just asked me. The students asked me if I would help, and I said, "Well, when do y'all meet?" And they said Tuesdays and Thursdays. I said, "Okay." I was like, "I think I can do Tuesdays, but I can't do Thursdays." And so I got asked another faculty member to do Thursdays for me. Well, Thursday's D&D night, and it's a lot easier to move this around than it is to move that around because we actually meet in person and stuff. So
Yeah, supposedly.
yeah, I didn't go last week though.
So, Jake, what are your general thoughts about Clerks?
Sorry about that. I mean, yeah, I think I'm like late to the game for this, but I enjoyed it. It was pretty good. It's definitely one of those like slice of life films that I'm just discovering that you really like. Like it reminded me a lot of Days to Confused.
I never
With
put two
the
and two
episodic,
together.
it was kind of like episodic and broken up into chapters, not the traditional 3-act structure. It was like, it was like these vignettes throughout.
Yes.
So I've discovered that you're a big fan of that. But it was very nice. It's not particularly my cup of tea. I'm not a huge slice of life fan. But it got me as it went to the end. The beginning was really slower for me, for my taste. But as the movie continued and all the different pieces started kind of like raveling together, it was a nice watch.
Yeah. I love that movie from beginning to end. I could watch it over and over and over. Again, I rhymed. Sorry.
Awesome.
So what do you what is your favorite part of the movie, Jake?
My favorite like scene of the movie?
Anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part? Yeah.
Man, probably the near the end. I don't want to spoil it. Near the end.
Dude, it came out in
Uh,
1994. You're good.
We've
all
been
right,
spoiling
man.
it.
Probably the end where his girlfriend like does it with a corpse
Yeah.
in the bathroom. I thought that was pretty funny. That came out of left field.
Mhm.
What's the guy's name? Dante. Dante's
Dante.
girlfriend.
Well, it wasn't his
Um,
girlfriend. It was the girl he wanted to be
his
with.
his ex girlfriend that he
Oh,
wanted to be with, which I kind of liked how they didn't shy away from all these characters as like not really being good people.
yeah. They're just like they just
You
like live.
know, they're like, yeah, they're like scumbag teens with a dead end job. I assume in the middle of summer. That's kind of the vibe I was getting. It's
I guess I never thought
kind of
about
like
it.
a dog days of summer situation where it's just
Mhm.
like you have these endless days of having like your first job where like you don't care about it, but it gets you some money, so you do it anyway.
Right.
Like you don't really give a shit about like the people who come in, and just kind of like the whole like customer shitting on you
Hmm.
and the shenanigans that you get up to. So I also felt weirdly, um, God, I almost felt weirdly called out by Dante. He actually reminded me a lot about myself, which I did not like.
In what ways?
Not so much now, but very much when I was in high school. Uh, Man, I was very much kind of a stick in the mud
Oh.
for a lot of my high school. I was like very, because like you guys, I was like homeschool, conservative, Bible Belt, like through and through. Like if something was potentially frowned upon, like I was the guy vocally against it. Like, so let's follow the rules, guys.
Yeah.
And so his kind of like sad sack nature of like, oh man, I want to do this, but I gotta work here, but I can't quit because
I'm not
like
even
I
supposed
told
to
him
be
I'd
here
be
today.
here. Yeah, like his continual like whining and his dogged like loyalty to his own moral code that no one's placed on him hit way too close to home when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
So
And so I was like,
we were
ooh,
talking about
that's
that.
I was that guy. Ooh, I don't like this. Ooh.
All right. So
Why a lot of people could relate to these characters.
yeah.
Yeah, it was
So
very realistic. And I actually like that. I started watching Clerks 2.
yeah.
And I actually like Clerks 1's a lot more because the characters felt a lot more real. Clerks 2, I definitely think it has its audience and it was funny, but it was definitely like more of kind of like the slapstick 90s raunchy, like, oh,
Right.
butts on a window type thing.
Yeah. That's what I was telling Zach was like Clerks 2 is kind of like
It kind of reminded me almost of like American Pie movies. Not to that extreme, but the same kind of humor. Just kind of like sex, but funny
sex
fart
butt.
jokes. Yeah, sex, but funny fart
Well, it's
jokes.
like any other. Like Clerks 1 is. I love Clerks 1. Clerks 2 is great, but yeah, you're right. It's more like just another raunchy. It came out and it came out like early 2000s, but I
Yeah,
see what you mean. That raunchy comedy that was popular back then.
it's like not
Um,
another teen movie type
yeah,
movie.
exactly. Or American Pie 2 or 3.
Yeah.
But then Clerks 3, like, and I know you guys haven't watched it yet, but man, I saw that movie in theaters and I don't typically cry, but man, I cried.
And Clerks 3 is about how they made Clerks 1, right?
Yep. It's just like, it's about Randall. I mean, I can give you this away because it's in the trailer. It's about Randall has a heart attack, and so he decides he's going to make a movie, and it's basically he's making Clerks 1 because, and I talked about this earlier with Zach, Randall is based off Kevin Smith. And so,
Mm.
and then Dante is based off Kevin Smith's friend Brian, which is if you've ever seen Comic Book Man, you know who he is. But yeah,
That track.
they're based off like real people, Kevin Smith and Brian. I forget
So what does that
Brian
say
Johnson.
what does that say that throughout the movie I'm just like Randall's an asshole?
I mean, I guess Kevin Smith Might have been. It says in the trivia, it says that Randall was based off Kevin Smith. That's why Randall has all the best lines. So I don't know if it necessarily means Kevin Smith was an asshole, but at least he gave himself, the best lines in the movie originally, and then he became Silent Bob instead. So I think Silent Bob was made purely
So he could be in the movie.
yeah, so he can be in the movie because, and I was telling Zach this, he wanted to be in the movie just in case it like failed. At least he'd be on
He'd be
screen.
in a movie.
He'd be in it.
Yeah.
And so, that's why he's in there, Jay and Silent Bob. So, but
Yeah.
Jay and Silent Bob, they really helped make the movie, I guess. Like,
I want
Yeah.
comic book strips of this of
I'm
these
sure
characters. That'd be cool.
I'm sure there are. I mean, there's an animated TV show. I bet you there's a comic book out there. Zach,
It's gotta be.
Yeah, it's freaking Kevin Smith. He's got to have a Clerks comic book.
I'm looking it up right now.
Clerks, yeah, comics. Okay.
Clerks comic book comes up immediately.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, Clerks the comic published in December 1998. Oh, that's
I
a
got one from
holiday special.
1997.
There's one from 98. Clerks, let's see.
Clerks the comics books. Kevin Smith by Oni Press. First edition.
Dang, I need to
Yeah.
find these. I really want to watch this animated.
They got
series.
Clerks. They got Jay and Silent Bob.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Clerks 2, the screenplay. Ooh.
Oh, that's cool. I think I have Clerks 1, the screen. I think I had the first one, the screenplay.
I feel like the Clerks would be a great stage play.
You know it would.
You know what?
You have one central setting, pretty much,
Yeah,
is the convenience store, or switch rotate the set to show the video store.
I wonder how
It'd
many.
be funny if they made it a musical.
A musical.
It's like taking everything else and making it like we just. I teach drama and we just watch Shrek the musical, so it's like you can make anything into a musical.
That's funny. That's a good
Yeah.
show.
Dude, I mean, it wasn't bad. Like I really enjoyed it. I just think it's funny how anybody can make anything into a musical nowadays.
Yeah. We've got our freaking like Disney on Ice thing coming up, and they've taken like Frozen and Encanto to like Disney films, and they've turned those into play. So they have a play that's on ice, and then they just have another play that they've just made for like a theater that you can find on YouTube, and it's ridiculous.
I kind of want to see if. I wonder what I'd need to do Clerks to play.
Write a play.
I mean, like, it's so vulgar. Like, I couldn't do it in college.
No, you couldn't do it for college. It'd have to be like off Broadway or
community theater.
something. Yeah.
At the Murray's Dinner Playhouse.
No, I'll probably do it at like
family friendly.
Yeah. They're not going to know what it is, and then you have to hear all these F-bombs and
Write bad reviews.
I brought my kids to this. Well, it said on the thing, don't bring your kids to this.
The Argenta Theater.
You know what was also I was also impressed about Clerks was how many extras they got in that film. There was an insane amount of people in that film, like outside of Dante and
Randall and Jason
and Randall and those three, like all the people that came into the store, like the people who played hockey, the dude who was selling gum, the crowd that formed, the girls that came in, the dude, like they got so many people to actually come in, and they were all really interactive. It wasn't just like background parts. Like they almost every single person interacted with the main characters.
I
wonder how he got all those people.
I can tell you that one guy played, I think, 3 different parts as an extra. I know it was Walt Flanagan. He was in the beginning of the movie. He played the egg guy, the guy who checks the eggs. He was also in the beginning. He said something was disgusting. He was I think they were talking crap about something. He's like, "Oh, they're disgusting," and storms out. And then he's probably out there playing hockey with them and everything too. So I know that because on Comic Book Man he mentions it, and like there's a funny episode where they the comic book store guys challenged the Clerks guys to a bowling match, and in the show Walt he switches teams to the Clerks team because they were winning. And he's like, I played 3 parts in Clerks. I should be over there. So he switches over, and then they end up losing anyway. It's so funny. It's like, you're an idiot. Anyway, so yeah, I would agree. Like there was a lot of like good conversations just with Dante and the customers. Like this, the gum guy, the guy who was trying to
Hmm.
sell his nicotine gum. The two like the guy who was like he works out or something. He like he
Oh
even
yeah,
like there's a girl
you're
that comes
weak. I
in.
can tell.
Yeah, he's like, you're out of shape, man. He's like, you couldn't even lift that milk or whatever it was. And like the girl comes in and they all know Dante and they know Caitlin and they know
Yeah,
Veronica and stuff like that. And so,
the writing
um,
was actually really well done.
well,
Like they all is so many different lines, so many different people, so many, and there was all really, it was all really like naturally.
yeah,
The conversations were natural, the way that they responded, and that might have part of that might have been, I assume maybe that they were doing some ad libbing,
I don't
but
know.
it all
Yeah.
came across very natural.
Well, I was telling Zach, they did have good conversations, and like I love the conversations in that movie. But like the only thing about the conversations I don't care for is how quickly they're able to respond to something
Oh
with
yeah,
with a response that was like intelligent. Whereas
Yes.
like us, it would be like but they're just like boom, 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 boom,
I gotta
which
think a
is
little.
yeah, which is great. Like they're clearly smarter than we are.
yeah, like the social network level
Yes, like
conversation.
freaking what's his name? What's his name? The guy who made that movie, Aaron Sorkin. Is that who
Yeah,
made that? And not even Social Network, but even the Newsroom has the same type of conversations. What? Yeah, thank you.
yeah. Except like those people are like supposed to be really smart,
Oh yeah, but
and these guys are two dumb idiots. It's a dead
yeah,
end job.
and they have they have these like great conversations. I'm like, man, they must be really good friends to be able to have such good conversations like that. But I
Yeah.
mean, I still like enjoyed it, regardless like how kind of unrealistic that type of conversation would be if I were like working at a convenience store. I mean, like when I worked at Game Exchange, I had pretty good conversations, but it wasn't anything on that level, because when you work at a game store, you talk about games, and I love talking about games. So
Not about your life.
yeah, exactly. Like I mean, sometimes they're live, but mostly games. It's like I remember when the before the Switch came out, me and a friend were speculating as to what the new Nintendo console would be, and so we were talking about that, and it was just like back and forth, like but it wasn't like anything like those conversations, like with the whole Star Wars, uh, Return of the Jedi.
I feel like that's
conversation.
something we would talk about, to be honest.
Yeah, I would. I mean, seriously, like when I see that
The
every time
contractors on the Death Star.
yeah, is that the independent contractors? I was like, man, why don't we ever have conversations like this? I
Well,
mean, we could make a
you know what got
podcast out of
me
it.
specifically for that conversation? I thought it was funny that they were like they were able to see the plot hole in it because like even Disney addressed it like with Rogue One.
Oh yeah,
Like that's
yeah.
essentially Rogue One is what they were talking about. Like it wasn't
Yeah,
inside
it
job.
was Rogue One because like Rogue One is just I think it's oh no Rogue One is like
Takes
the
place
text
just before A New Hope.
just before New Hope. Yeah, the
Yeah,
text basically what they did was take the text crawl and make a movie out of it, right?
yeah.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
So yeah,
But like the fact that there was an inside guy like
yeah,
sabotaging it and stuff.
yeah.
Not the
That was
people, not all the innocent contractors dying though.
yeah. That was still like a and there was a thing of How I Met Your Mother. I don't know if y'all have seen How I Met Your Mother, but Lily keeps calling stormtroopers robots, and they're like, they're not robots. And she's like, wait, so there were people on the Death Star, like inside those suits, and they're like, yeah. And then she's like, so you mean they all died? And they're like, they knew what they were getting themselves into. Kind of the same with the contractors. It was like they knew the risk when they took the job. Like it's called the Death Star. Like you're bound to probably die. Like
It's in the name.
it's in the name exactly. Like they knew what they were getting themselves into. So I thought that conversation was probably one of the more interesting ones in the movie.
What the most interesting one was the reading off of the porn videos from Randall.
Yeah.
And then the kid video mentioned
At
at
the
the end.
very end. Oh, what was that movie you wanted? And it's funny because he had to memorize all that.
Yeah, that's wild.
Because I'm pretty sure
there were a lot of not long takes, but like there was no switching.
Well, yeah, that's what I was about to say. I'm pretty sure that was all one shot,
one shot. Yeah,
one opportunity.
one opportunity.
There were a lot of like long takes of conversations. It amazes me when people can do that.
And then the speed of the conversations as well.
They just boom, boom, boom.
Yeah,
Well,
bouncing
even like
back on off each other like that.
in the car, when they're in the car and driving to the wake, all it is just the camera moving back and forth. It's not cutting or anything. So they're having this long conversation in the car, and I bet you they had to do it several times in order to get it right because, there was no cutting. And it amazes me actors who can do that. And like those two weren't even like professional actors. They were just like actors. Yeah. I don't think they were professional actors. I think they might have been people like Kevin Smith knew. So if
he did a great job finding them.
Yeah, if that's true, yeah, he picked a good Dante and Randall. Like
they were convincing, that's for sure.
I'm glad that Kevin Smith chose not to cast himself as Randall. I think the guy who plays Randall, especially in Clerks 2 and Clerks 3, like does a phenomenal job as Randall. He's the only Randall for me.
I want to see an alternative universe where Kevin Smith is
Randall. And the guy who plays Randall is Silent Bob.
Yes.
Could you imagine? Because like
I think it could work.
Well, the whole time Randall's talking. Like Randall never shuts up, except for the time when he spit in the guy's face.
Yeah, Randall's just the guy that I think I'd get along with.
Yeah,
he just keeps you comfortable for the most part. Tells it how it is.
Dante is kind of a baby, He's, I'm not even supposed to be here today, and
woe is me.
Caitlin this, Caitlin that, Caitlin this.
Like he has goals, but he's too scared to do anything.
Well, yeah, I guess he I don't know if he has like set goals, but I think he has aspirations not to work at that place anymore, but he's a little, seems like he might be too lazy to do anything about it.
Yeah. Which I think is funny that was kind of set up for him. And then in Clerks 2, he was still working there.
Well, he was working at the very beginning. He pulls up. Yeah.
He was still there.
Yeah. And then we're not going to tell you what happens because Zach hasn't seen it, I don't think.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen 2 or 3.
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything because I want to have separate
I don't mind, though.
on those two. No. Not going to tell you. I want to have separate episodes on those two.
You want episodes on Clerks 2 and 3?
It's just like I want an episode for Clerks 2 and an episode for Clerks 3.
We better get to watching.
I mean, I've seen them. I'm good. I'll watch them again, though. I do like Clerks 2. Like Clerks 3 is so good. I don't want to hype it up too much, but man, I freaking loved it. And then Clerks 2 is like, I likened it to Age of Ultron, where like nobody, like it's a good movie. It's not the best one, but it needed to happen in order for things to happen in the MCU. You know what I mean?
Shouldn't the second movie be the best in trilogies of sorts?
Nope. What second movie is the best to you?
Empire.
Oh, yeah.
Strikes Back.
Well, fair enough. You got me. I mean, American Pie 2 is my favorite American Pie. Toy Story 2 is my favorite Toy Story.
Home Alone 2, Lost in New York.
Nah, Home Alone 1 for me all the way. Home Alone 4.
Scene.
Home Alone
Little
4.
Heroes.
The Disney one.
Boo.
The new...
Boo.
I'm just kidding. No, Home Alone 1 is... We could have an episode on sequels. Just like 2s, not even 3s, just 2s.
Analyzing sequels. Yeah. Good ones, bad ones, in between ones.
Or ones that you didn't know was a sequel to the other. Like that one with the Mad Max sequel isn't even called Mad Max. It's called something else. But it's a sequel to Mad Max.
Is it like Thunderdome or something?
Yeah, something like that. It's just something random, but it's a sequel to Mad Max. So I love it when they do that. Because then you're like, oh, I'm going to go see this movie. And then you're like, oh, this is kind of like Mad Max. And then you're like, oh my God, it's a sequel to Mad Max. But anyway. So any final thoughts on Clerks?
I need to see it again to appreciate it more after our conversation. But
you'll
it's
watch it again.
Yeah, well, I told my mom about it. She said, "Oh, I haven't seen it." I feel like it might be, I don't know, for a lot of people, like a lot of the stuff that's being said is it will just go over people's heads. I feel like I don't know
I can
certain
tell you,
aspects.
if I told my mom about it, and it made her watch it, she would hate it because it's not it's not like a Lifetime movie, and it's also not like an
It's not
action movie.
yeah, it's not linear in some ways. It's that
Well, it's
episodic
just
format. Is Clerks 2 and 3 the similar? Or are they more mainstream in their storytelling?
Clerks 2 is a lot more mainstream, at least
Mainstream.
in my opinion.
Why they decided to go that route?
dude, it's an independent film. Leave them alone.
I guess it's like Joker 2 is going to be a musical. Can't be the same style of movie from the first one.
I got a question for you guys.
Sake
Would
of
you
it.
consider Clerks to be an art house film?
I'd say it's indie
Indie?
and
Well, what's the difference?
in production. Art house, I'd say, is weird just to be weird.
So,
I think,
you
well,
know,
art house, it's supposed to be like intended to be like
Experiment.
this serious, like artistic work.
oh yeah. So like almost like an experimental film. So
Yeah.
I would say no.
Even with the kind of like the unusual film structuring, and because they didn't use music, they didn't use.
Well, there was music. It just wasn't. For one
They
thing,
didn't have any soundtrack.
well, no, but there was still music in the movie, especially at the beginning. But it wasn't like prevalent. Like it wasn't something that was like focused on. So like you'd hear music, and then their conversations would almost like get rid of, like it would almost drown out the music, where you're like you don't even care. Because I was actually rewatching the Death Star scene where he talks about Death Star, and like there's a part in there where music just comes on randomly, and it's really weird. Um,
Like elevator music.
but it was just like no, it's just like generic like rock almost, just like a little bit of a riff on a guitar with some drums in the
They
background.
probably got the
Nothing-
buddies to record something for the film. I'm
I
sure.
mean, probably, yeah. Like it wasn't anything that was recognizable or anything like that. It was just random music, and like there's some like, especially during the intertitles, there would be like some sort of like a little drum stinger, if you will, just like dude kind of stuff. But nothing major. Like, I mean, yeah, there's not a
They're just-
soundtrack, but
It just impressed me that these long conversations, these long, well scripted conversations, and it relied solely on the conversation
Mhm.
itself. There was no, driving music or any
Right, yeah, that's
cues to persuade your emotions. It was just like these people talking.
yeah, for sure.
Just like in Failsafe, no music at all, carried by conversations of suited men talking about war.
I guess that's what we're talking about next week, huh?
Potentially. Yeah.
Well, we're talking about apocalyptic stuff or whatever.
Yeah. That's if I'm available.
Oh, that's right. You might be able to be. That's right.
You guys just do an episode together about something else.
Me too. We can remember. I can remember.
Good. Yeah, I probably need to put an alarm on.
I should. Actually, that's really smart. I'll do that.
Yeah, I probably need to as well. I just like it's anyway. That's a whole other conversation. Anyway, so final thoughts. Final thoughts.
Those are my final thoughts. I enjoyed the movie the first time. I need to see it again to understand things. I think it's one of those movies you just got to watch over and over to catch things and understand nuances. But it's
I
a
think it's a
comedic masterpiece, in my opinion, though.
Okay.
I'm using that word.
Okay.
Wow, that's a bold,
Yeah.
bold statement.
I don't even know if I would consider it a masterpiece.
For Kevin Smith, it launched his
it's
career.
like it launched his career, but that doesn't necessarily make it a masterpiece.
Cult classic.
It's definitely a cult classic. A cult. He's got a cult following, that's for sure.
Remember what defines a cult movie?
I think according to our definition during the episodes, it was a movie that was not popular at the time that it came out.
Oh, you know what?
But grew a following.
Right. We even looked at the Rotten Tomatoes on Clerks, and like it's got a 90 on the tomato meter and a 89 for audience score. So I don't know, because like a lot of people that I know,
But when it came out, was it popular?
Oh, that's a good question. It said it was received well.
I didn't do with the box office,
but it doesn't. But it doesn't say. It says it currently has an approval rating of 90% based on 60 reviews. So it's possible that like it's a very, very small number of people that liked it out of the however many billion in the world. So it's kind of hard to say. Like I guess cult following would be a good term for it. Like yeah, for the people who've watched it, they loved it, but doesn't seem like very many people watched it and has still not watched it. The only reason you guys watch it is because I made you.
Yes.
same with my friends. My friends, we have movie night every night or every week, and one of the categories was an independent film, so I chose Clerks. I was like, I know what movie I want to watch, so that's what we watched, and we ended up watching all three of them, and they liked them, but like she said, even my friend Leah was like, I never knew these films existed, and I said, I did.
Yeah, you remember seeing them in the theaters?
The
Did you,
promos?
didn't you see them in theaters?
No, dude, it wasn't in 1994. I was only like 8 years old. I think the first Kevin Smith movie I ever watched was Dogma, and I watched that movie a lot. And then I mean, I learned about Kevin Smith more as I got older, and so like Dogma, and I think I had seen Clerks, and then I saw Clerks 2 and Tusk. I saw Tusk in theaters. I did see Tusk in theaters. That movie's weird.
I just know Kevin Smith loves comics.
Yeah, he does. He's a big comic book first person. I mean, he's got a comic book characters called Blunt Man and Chronic, and like that's what Jay and Silent Bob is Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back is about. Is because the Blunt Man and Chronic comic book, they want to make it into a movie, but they didn't ask Jay or Silent Bob because it's based off of them. And so they have to go to Hollywood to stop them from making the movie. And then the reboot movie is about them wanting to do another reboot. And so they have Val Kilmer. It's so funny. Val Kilmer's in it, and he plays Blunt Man, but he's only in it for like a little bit. And then Melissa Benoist, who plays Supergirl, is also in it. She plays Chronic. And it's really funny to see them together because it's just like two random ass like actors. Val Kilmer of all people. Like, I don't know how the hell
Was this before he got like really not sick? Or like
no, I think he was already at that point. I mean,
unable to speak.
This reboot came out just a few years ago. Jay and Silent Bob. Let's see, reboot came out in 2019. So at this point he had already his throat cancer, I think.
Yeah,
Val Kilmer, and so he didn't say anything. I don't think he might have said it was something small, but it was mostly Melissa Benoist talking, and she's in the Blunt Man or the Chronic outfit, and she looks super hot.
Yeah, Melissa Benoist.
She plays Supergirl.
Yeah. Any other last thoughts?
Nope.
Clerks.
I mean, I'll watch these movies for the rest of my freaking life, and I'll try to get as many people to watch them as I can. And if I ever make the stage play, I'll let you know.
I think the stage play would be cool.
Please do. I want to see that.
I think it would be great too, because I mean, like you said, it's all in one space except for the video store. It's like The Well. It all takes place in the apartment.
Yep.
So,
have you seen The Well yet, Jake?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I was going to, but I think Justin changed his voodoo password.
I did change my voodoo password, and it's because, and I bet this is why. It's because somebody signed on. I didn't recognize the device, but I had already thought that you signed on, so I freaked out.
It was probably worthwhile for you to do that anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I really don't mind you being on there. I just, when I see a device I don't recognize, like I had asked my family, and they all said no, and I was like, okay, so that's when I changed my password, because I was like, yeah, I don't, because I think I don't think my credit card's on there, so I just kind of freak out whenever
that's fair.
happens. So I don't mind you, really don't mind you being on there, so I'll send you the password again. Yeah, I like my voodoo movie collection.
The Whale started out as a play.
Yeah, you got some good stuff, man. I parsed through your library. I'm like, dang, he's got some good stuff.
I collect. That was when I was collecting movies hardcore for most of them. Now I haven't really bought a movie because I've been poor. Although I just bought Bamboozled and Four Little Girls, which is two Spike Lee movies. Because I'm teaching a Spike Lee class this semester.
I was talking about that with my wife the other day.
What?
About your Spike Lee class. She's like, who's Spike Lee? I'm like,
Whatever Jake's wife's name is, Gabby. That's what it is. Sorry.
My sweet love.
Yeah, I forgot. I'm not going to call her that, though. I'll just call her Gabby. Well, I guess we need to educate her, Jake, is what it sounds like.
We gotta. Oh, all right. My last thoughts is it's a good film. I enjoyed it. I definitely liked it more as it went on.
Yeah.
And I'm happy you showed it to me.
You're welcome. So. I show good movies sometimes. I make you watch good movies sometimes. I actually just watched Dazed and Confused again on VHS. It's so good.
On VHS? Like popped in a VHS tape?
Mm-hmm.
And is it stretched on the screen? or
Yeah,
is it-
because I have it.
Yeah.
I have it going through an HDMI.
could you
upscale.
modify it? Just make it 4:3 using the remote or something.
I don't have a remote.
Dang.
Yeah, dude, it's just.
I used to get so bothered. I mean, I didn't
get
get
that for you for
bothered by the
Christmas.
stretched VHS thing.
I'll
Now
get
I
you a
get
remote for
bothered by it.
Christmas.
There is a remote for my VCR. I just don't have one. I've looked it up online, and then I watched an episode of the. I don't know if you ever watched the Beetleborgs back in the day, but
Oh yes.
yeah,
Isn't
they're like
that
a
a cartoon,
knockoff on the
right?
Power Rangers. No, it's a live action show.
What?
It's basically
Beetleborg.
it's Chaim Saban bringing over more Japanese properties with kids inside of metal suits.
I remember hearing about Beetleborg. So
Anyway, all right. Well, I guess we'll stop
I
there.
have Beetleborg's action figures now. Now that I think of it, as a kid, I used to
All right.
play with them. Cool.
So anyway, you got excited there.
It's been an interesting episode. Sorry for coming in late, y'all.
That's okay. The point is you came. The only reason I
Okay,
didn't
so-
respond is because we were talking.
Yeah, you
So
were
on the
busy. So
Facebook. Yeah,
I wasn't even
was
sure.
talking.
I wasn't even sure if you guys would be having it or not. I just hopped on and I was like, oh no.
Now
I
we're
was
just like we're just doing it.
yeah. We decided to just
good for you guys.
knock it out. Yeah. I was like, man, I kind of want to wait for Jake, but I kind of want to do this episode.
No.
So.
No,
Um,
go for it.
Anyway, yeah, let's go ahead and end it there. So good episode,
A lot of editing
guys.
in this
Yeah,
one.
I know. Well, you know what? No, let's just leave it all in. So if you enjoyed this episode, hit us up on any place you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff, Spotify, Google Play. Google Podcasts is what it's called, actually. Amazon Music and all that. And then you can also hit us up on our social media, which Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And let us know if you liked the episode, if you didn't like the episode, if you have any ideas for episodes you'd like us to talk about, or blah, 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 anything like that. And we will see you next time.
Bye bye.
Jake.
Have a fantastic day.
Bye.